Callista pressed her back against the supply closet door, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. On the other side, she could hear Wesley Harrington, heir to the Harrington Hotel empire, her direct supervisor, the man who'd cornered her during her night shift, laughing softly. "Come on, Callista. Don't be dramatic." His voice was smooth, practiced, the same tone he used with investors and board members. "We both know what happens to housekeepers who make accusations against management, especially immigrant housekeepers with expired work visas." Callista's hands shook as she gripped her phone. He'd been escalating for weeks. Inappropriate comments, lingering touches, finding excuses to be alone with her. Tonight, he'd followed her into the fifth-floor supply room and locked the door behind him. She'd fought him off, barely, and managed to wedge herself behind a shelving unit. "I have proof," Callista said, her Romanian accent thickening with fear. "I've been recording everything. Your comments, your threats. No one will believe you." Wesley's tone shifted, harder now. "You're nobody. I'm a Harrington. My family owns 43 hotels across the West Coast. Who do you think the police will listen to? The respected businessman or the illegal immigrant trying to avoid deportation?" The words hit like physical blows because they were true. Callista had come to San Francisco 5 years ago on a student visa that had expired 2 years back. She'd been trying to save enough for a lawyer, for proper documentation, but housekeeping wages barely covered rent in the city's cheapest neighborhoods. "I'll scream," Callista threatened, though her voice came out weak. "Go ahead. It's 2 a.m. The nearest occupied room is 3 floors down. Security knows better than to question me." Wesley tried the door again, rattling the handle. "Open up, Callista. I'm losing patience. And you really don't want to see what happens when I lose patience." Callista looked at her phone. No signal in the concrete-reinforced supply closet. No way to call for help. The shelving unit she'd used to block the door wouldn't hold much longer. Wesley was shoving against it methodically, each push moving it another inch. This was it. This was how her story ended. Assaulted in a supply closet, deported if she survived, erased either way. Then she heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful, multiple sets. "Mr. Harrington?" A voice cut through, male, accented, carrying absolute authority. "I believe you're on the wrong floor. The owner's suite is on the 20th level." Wesley stopped pushing. "Who the hell are you?" "Kong Davin." A pause. "The new owner of this hotel. As of 3 hours ago, I own this building, this staff, and apparently this problem. Now step away from that door." Have you ever been trapped in a moment where no one would believe your truth, until an unexpected witness changed everything? Share your story below. New owner. Wesley's confident tone faltered. "That's impossible. My family has owned the Harrington San Francisco for 30 years. Had owned. Past tense." The voice, Davin, remained calm, almost amused. "Your father sold majority shares to my organization at 11 p.m. tonight. Emergency board meeting, unanimous vote. I'm surprised he didn't inform you." Through the shelving gap, Callista could see shadows in the hallway. Multiple figures, all moving with military precision. "You're lying," Wesley said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "My father would never." "Your father was facing federal charges for financial fraud. My organization offered to make certain problems disappear in exchange for controlling interest in his hotels." A pause. "But we can discuss business later. Right now, I'm more interested in why you're trying to break into a locked supply closet at 2 a.m. That's none of your concern. Everything in this building is my concern now, including staff safety." Footsteps approached. "Open the door, Mr. Harrington, or I'll have my people open it for you." Callista heard Wesley's sharp intake of breath, then his footsteps retreating. "This is ridiculous. I was just looking for cleaning supplies. At 2 a.m., in a locked closet, while a female employee is hiding inside." The voice hardened. "Don't insult my intelligence." Callista's phone suddenly buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "My name is Davin. I own this hotel now. Are you safe? Do you need medical attention?" Her hands shook as she typed back, "How did you get my number?" I have access to all employee records. Are you injured? No. Scared. He was going to. She couldn't finish typing it. I understand. I'm going to have my head of security escort Mr. Harrington off the property. When you hear 3 knocks, it will be safe to open the door. Her name is Nix. She's a woman, former military. You can trust her. Callista pressed her forehead against the cold metal shelving, trying to process. A new owner, Korean by his accent and name, powerful enough to acquire the Harrington Empire overnight. And for some reason, he was protecting her. In the hallway, Wesley's protests grew more desperate. You can't throw me out. My father will sue. Your father is currently in federal custody. And Mr. Harrington. Davin's voice dropped to something dangerous. If I ever see you near this hotel or any of my employees again, you'll discover that my organization's reputation for handling problems isn't just talk. Are we clear? Silence. Then Wesley's footsteps. Rapid, retreating. 3 soft knocks on the door. Callista. A woman's voice. Calm. Professional. I'm Nix. Mr. Kong asked me to make sure you're all right. Can you open the door? Callista moved the shelving unit aside with trembling hands and opened the door. The woman outside was tall, fit, with kind eyes that had clearly seen combat. Behind her, the hallway was empty except for 2 men in dark suits stationed at the elevator. Where is he? Callista whispered. Gone. Security escorted him out. He won't be back. Nix's expression softened. Mr. Kong would like to speak with you, if you're willing. No pressure, you can go home if you prefer. But he wanted to personally ensure you're safe and discuss what happened. Will I be fired? Fired. Nix looked genuinely confused. Why would you be fired? Because Mr. Harrington said. Callista's voice broke. He said no one would believe me. That I'm nobody. You're an employee under Mr. Kang's protection now. And trust me, when Davin Kong says someone is protected, he means it. Nix extended her hand. Come on, let's get you somewhere safe. Nix led Callista to the hotel's executive office. A space she'd only seen while cleaning, never occupied. Now it was filled with activity. Men and women in expensive suits reviewing documents, setting up computers, transforming the Harrington Empire's nerve center into something new. And in the center of it all stood Kong Davin. He was younger than Callista expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that cataloged everything in a single glance. His suit was impeccable, his presence commanding without being loud. When he saw her, he dismissed everyone else with a gesture. Thank you, Nix. Please wait outside. Alone with him, Callista felt her earlier fear resurface. She'd escaped one powerful man only to be summoned by another. The pattern was too familiar. Davin seemed to read her tension. You can leave whenever you want. The door isn't locked. Nix is outside if you need her. He gestured to a chair. But I'd appreciate a few minutes of your time. Please sit. Callista perched on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt. Tell me what happened tonight, Davin said, his tone matter-of-fact. Everything, from the beginning. So Callista told him about Wesley's escalating harassment over the past 3 months. The comments about her body, her accent, her immigration status. How he'd cornered her tonight in the supply room. How he'd locked the door and told her no one would believe her if she reported him. Did he touch you? Davin's voice remained calm, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. He tried. I fought him off and hid behind the shelving. You said you have recordings? Callista pulled out her phone with shaking hands, showing him the audio files she'd been collecting. Wesley's voice was clear. The inappropriate comments, the threats about her visa status, tonight's attack. Davin listened to 30 seconds before stopping the playback. How long has this been happening? 3 months, since he became my direct supervisor. And you never reported it? Callista laughed bitterly. To who? His father owned the hotel. HR reports to the family. Security takes orders from management. I'm a housekeeper with no papers. Who would listen? I'm listening. Davin's eyes held hers. And I'm going to do something about it. Why? The question burst out before Callista could stop it. You don't know me. I'm nobody, like Wesley said. You're an employee who was assaulted on property I now own. That makes it my responsibility. Davin leaned forward. But Callista, I need to be honest with you about who I am and what I do. You've heard the name Kong Organization? Callista's stomach dropped. Everyone in San Francisco's immigrant communities knew that name. Korean Mafia. Import-export operations that served as fronts for less legal enterprises. Powerful, dangerous, not to be crossed. I see you have, Davin said. So you understand I'm not some white knight. I'm a criminal. My organization operates outside the law more often than within it. He paused. But we have rules. One of them is we protect our people. And as of tonight, you're one of our people. I don't understand. Wesley Harrington assaulted you. He threatened you. He used his power to make you feel helpless. Davin's voice hardened. I'm going to make sure he faces consequences. But I need your permission first. Because what I'm offering isn't the legal system. That system failed you long before tonight. What I'm offering is justice. My way. What does that mean? It means Wesley Harrington will never hurt you or anyone else again. It means you'll have proper immigration documentation by the end of the week. It means a real job with real protection. Davin's eyes were steady. But it also means associating with me, with my organization. That comes with its own risks. Callista thought about the supply closet, about Wesley's hands on her, about 5 years of living in fear, of deportation, of assault, of being invisible and powerless. What do you want in return? She asked quietly. Nothing. Davin's answer was immediate. This isn't transactional. This is me correcting an injustice that happened on my property. Nobody does something for nothing. I do. When it matters. He stood, moving to the window overlooking the city. My sister was a housekeeper once. In Seoul, before we came to America. Her employer assaulted her. When she reported it, she was fired and blacklisted. She couldn't find work, couldn't support herself. His voice was quiet but lethal. She took her own life 6 months later. She was 19. The pain in his voice was raw, real. Callista felt tears prick her eyes. So when I see a man like Wesley Harrington, Davin turned back to face her. Using his power to hurt someone vulnerable, it's personal. It's always personal. What happens to Wesley? Callista asked, her voice barely above a whisper. That depends on you. Davin returned to his desk. I can have my lawyers file criminal charges. Your recordings are solid evidence. But that means public trial, media attention, your immigration status scrutinized. The Harrington family will hire the best defense attorneys money can buy, and they'll try to destroy your credibility. Callista's stomach turned. Or I handle it privately. Wesley disappears from San Francisco. No trial, no media circus, no risk to you. He simply goes away. Permanently away from any position where he can hurt women again. You mean? I mean he gets a one-way ticket out of the country and a very clear understanding that returning would be fatal. Davin's expression was unreadable. I don't kill people for harassment, Callista, but I do make sure they can never repeat their crimes. Before Callista could respond, Nix knocked and entered without waiting. Boss, we have a problem. Wesley Harrington's father just posted bail. He's on his way here with his legal team. Davin's jaw tightened. How fast? 20 minutes, maybe less. And he's threatening to contest the sale. Claim it was made under duress. Let him try. The contracts are airtight. Davin looked at Callista. But he's going to come after you. Claim you seduced his son, that you're lying to extort money. Are you prepared for that? Callista felt ice slide down her spine. He knows about me? Wesley called him from the car. Apparently, his version of events involves you propositioning him and then claiming assault when he refused. Nix's expression was disgusted. Classic Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. I have recordings, which they'll claim are fabricated or taken out of context. Davin stood. Callista, I need a decision. Right now. Legal route or my route. Because if Richard Harrington walks through that door, everything becomes exponentially more complicated. Callista's mind raced. 5 years of invisible survival, of keeping her head down, of accepting that powerful men always won. But something had shifted tonight. Someone with power was offering to fight for her instead of against her. "Your route," she said. "I want your route." Davin nodded. "Nix, take Callista to the safe house on Fillmore. Get her statement recorded, documented, backed up in 3 locations. Then call Jean High. I want immigration papers processed by Friday." "What about the Harringtons?" Nix asked. "I'll handle them." Davin's smile was sharp. "They're about to learn what happens when you threaten what's mine." "I'm not yours," Callista said reflexively. "You're under my protection. That makes you mine to protect." Davin's eyes were fierce. "And I take care of what's mine." 20 minutes later, Callista sat in a sleek townhouse in Pacific Heights while Nix made tea and a lawyer named Marlowe took her statement with gentle efficiency. Through the window, she could see 2 guards stationed outside, subtle but present. "Mr. Kong doesn't take chances with his people," Marlowe explained, setting up recording equipment. "You're safe here, but I need you to tell me everything. Not just about tonight, but about your immigration status, your work history, everything that might be used against you." As Callista talked, she felt the weight of 5 years of silence finally lifting. Someone was listening. Someone believed her. Someone with power was choosing to use it for her instead of against her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Davin. "Richard Harrington just arrived. He's threatening lawsuits, criminal charges against you, deportation proceedings. I'm about to show him why that's a mistake. You did the right thing trusting me." Another text followed immediately. "Also, you're getting a raise. And a promotion. My hotels need a head of staff advocacy. Someone who understands what it's like to be vulnerable. Interested?" Callista stared at the message, hardly believing it. From hiding in a supply closet to, "This? Why me?" She texted back. "Because you survived. Because you fought back. Because you deserve better than what this city has given you. Also because I need someone who won't be intimidated by management. And you just proved you can't be broken. The job's yours if you want it." The next morning, Callista woke in the safe house to find Nix bringing coffee and news. "It's handled," Nix said simply. "Wesley Harrington is on a plane to Dubai. He won't be back." Just like that. Just like that. Davin presented his father with a choice. Accept the hotel sale, keep Wesley out of the country, and face only the federal fraud charges already filed. Or fight the sale and have evidence of Wesley's assaults. Not just yours, but 3 other women who came forward overnight. Delivered to every major media outlet. Nix's smile was grim. Richard Harrington chose self-preservation. 3 other women? Once word got out that someone was actually listening, they contacted us. A sous chef, a front desk clerk, and an event coordinator. All with similar stories about Wesley. All too afraid to report because of his family's power. Nix set down a folder. "They're willing to testify if needed, but Davin structured the deal so they won't have to. Wesley's gone. They're compensated, and they get to move on with their lives." Callista opened the folder to find immigration paperwork. A work visa application already in progress, sponsored by Kong Hospitality Group. Legal, legitimate, everything she'd been desperate for. "How?" she whispered. "Davin has connections. Good ones." Nix poured her own coffee. The job offer was real, by the way. Head of staff advocacy across all Kong properties. Salary, benefits, legal status. You'd be protecting workers like yourself. Making sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else in our organization. "I don't have experience with management. You have experience being powerless. That's more valuable." Nix met her eyes. "Davin's serious about this. He wants to build something different. Hotels where employees aren't prey for men like Wesley Harrington." Callista's phone buzzed. "Davin, can you come to the hotel? There's someone who wants to meet you." 30 minutes later, Callista stood in the hotel's executive office facing Richard Harrington. He looked smaller than she'd expected. diminished by his son's crimes and his own legal troubles. Davin stood between them, a silent warning. "Ms. Callista," Richard said stiffly, "I want to apologize for my son's behavior and for the environment that allowed it to happen." "You want to apologize because Mr. Kong forced you to," Callista corrected, finding her voice. "Not because you actually care what your son did." Richard's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "Here's what's going to happen," Davin said. "You're going to establish a fund, $2 million, for victims of workplace harassment in the hospitality industry. Callista will oversee its distribution. You'll also implement mandatory anti-harassment training across all remaining Harrington properties, with oversight from an independent organization. That's extortion. That's accountability." Davin's voice was ice. "You enabled your son for years. You ignored complaints. You protected him instead of his victims. This is you making amends, or this is every piece of evidence about Wesley's assaults going public. Choose." Richard signed the agreements with shaking hands. After he left, Callista turned to Davin. "Why are you doing all this? Really?" Davin was quiet for a moment. "I told you about my sister. What I didn't tell you is that she reached out for help before she died. To our family, to authorities, to everyone. And no one listened. Everyone told her she was overreacting, that she should be grateful for the job, that speaking up would only make things worse." His voice was raw. "So when I heard you trapped in that supply closet, heard Wesley saying no one will believe you, I heard my sister's voice, and I couldn't walk away. Not again." "What would you do if you had the power to help someone trapped in the situation that once destroyed someone you loved? Share your thoughts in the comments." 3 weeks into her new role as head of staff advocacy, Callista thought she'd finally found stability. Her work visa was approved. She had an apartment she could actually afford, subsidized by Kong Hospitality. She'd helped 2 employees file harassment complaints that were taken seriously and resolved quickly. Then Wesley Harrington came back. Callista was reviewing employee complaints in her new office when Nix burst through the door. Her usual composure shattered. "We have a problem. Wesley's in the country. He landed at SFO 2 hours ago." "That's impossible. The agreement. He violated it. Davin's trying to locate him now." But Nix's phone buzzed. She read the message and her face went pale. "Callista, he's here. In the hotel. Security spotted him in the parking garage." Callista's blood turned to ice. "How did he get past your people?" "He didn't come through the front. Service entrance, employee uniform, fake credentials. Nix was already moving. We're evacuating you to the safe house. Now." But they were too late. The office door slammed open and Wesley stood there, his expensive suit replaced with maintenance coveralls, his face twisted with rage. In his hand, a gun. "You ruined my life," he said, the weapon trembling. "My father disowned me. I'm blacklisted from every hotel chain in the world. All because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." Nix moved to shield Callista, but Wesley swung the gun toward her. "Don't. I will shoot her. I have nothing left to lose." "Wesley, this isn't going to end well for you," Nix said calmly, though Callista could see her hand inching toward her concealed weapon. "Davin's people are already on their way. Let them come. I'll be done by then." Wesley's eyes were wild, unhinged. "You think your Korean gangster can protect you? He sent me away like garbage. My own father won't take my calls. All because some immigrant housekeeper decided to play victim." "I didn't play anything." Callista found her voice, though it shook. "You assaulted me. You threatened me. You did this to yourself. I tried to give you a compliment, tried to show you attention, and you—" Wesley's finger moved to the trigger. "You know what? Forget the speech. You're not worth it." The gunshot was deafening in the small office. But Callista was still standing. Wesley wasn't. Davin stood in the doorway, his own weapon still raised, his expression carved from ice. Behind him, 4 of his security team moved in with military precision, securing the scene. "Shoulder wound," Davin said calmly, lowering his gun. "He'll live. Unfortunately." He stepped over Wesley's writhing form and moved directly to Callista. "Are you hurt?" Callista couldn't speak, couldn't move. Shock had frozen her in place. Davin's hands were gentle as he guided her to sit. "Nix, call Marcus. Tell him we need cleanup and a medical team. And call my lawyer, I just shot someone on camera. I want this documented properly." "Self-defense," Nix said immediately. He was pointing a weapon at employees. Completely justified. "Maybe, but I'd rather have legal coverage anyway." Davin knelt beside Callista. "Look at me. Breathe. You're safe. I promise you're safe." "You shot him," Callista whispered. "I did. No apology, just fact. And I'd do it again." He threatened what's mine to protect. Police arrived within minutes, but not to arrest Davin. The lead detective took one look at the scene, the security footage and Wesley's weapon, and made his assessment. Clear self-defense. "We'll need statements, but Mr. Kong, you're not being charged." Wesley, being loaded onto a stretcher, screamed threats until paramedics sedated him. After the police left, after the blood was cleaned and the office sealed as a crime scene, Davin found Callista in a conference room, staring at nothing. "I almost got you killed," she said. "If I hadn't reported him." "If you hadn't reported him, he'd still be assaulting women and escalating. This isn't your fault, Callista. This is his choice, his violence, his consequences." "What happens now?" Callista's voice was hollow. "He'll press charges. Claim you tried to kill him. He's being charged with armed assault, breaking a restraining order, and violating the terms of his exile agreement." Davin sat across from her. "My lawyers are already filing, and this time there's no deal. He goes to prison. His family will fight it. His family disowned him." Richard Harrington released a statement an hour ago, condemning his son's actions and pledging full cooperation with authorities. Davin's expression was grim. "Wesley's alone now. No money, no protection, no power. Just consequences." Callista should have felt relief. Instead, she felt numbness. "I keep thinking, what if you'd been 5 seconds later? What if he'd actually pulled the trigger? But I wasn't, and he didn't." Davin leaned forward. "Callista, I need you to hear this. What happened today wasn't your fault. You didn't make Wesley violent. You didn't make him entitled. You didn't make him come back with a gun. You survived him. Twice. That takes strength most people never have to find. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Fear and strength aren't opposites. You can be both." Davin stood. "Take tomorrow off. Take the week if you need it. But know this, your job is safe, your immigration status is secure, and you're protected. Wesley Harrington will never touch you again." That night, alone in her apartment with 2 of Davin's security teams stationed outside, Callista couldn't sleep. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow held Wesley's face. 3 a.m. her phone rang. "Davin. Can't sleep either," he said without preamble. "Thought I'd check on you. I keep seeing the gun, hearing the shot, feeling like I'm back in that supply closet." Callista's voice broke. "How do you live like this, with violence always so close?" "By remembering what I'm protecting. And who." A pause. "Callista, I grew up in a world where power meant everything. My father ran a small gang in Seoul, nothing like what I built, but enough to teach me that strength without purpose is just cruelty." "What's your purpose?" "Originally, money, survival, proving I was more than my father's legacy." Davin's voice softened. "But then I lost my sister, and I realized power without protection is pointless. I had all this strength, all these resources, and I couldn't save the one person who mattered most. So now you save everyone else." "I try. I don't always succeed." The raw honesty in his voice surprised her. "But when I heard you trapped in that closet, heard that bastard say no one would believe you, I knew I could save you. I could do for you what I couldn't do for her. And I will never apologize for that." Callista felt tears slide down her cheeks. "Thank you. For believing me. For protecting me. For seeing me when everyone else looked away. You're easy to see, Callista. You're brave and brilliant and stronger than you know. A pause. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. But tonight, just survive. That's enough. After hanging up, Callista finally slept. And for the first time in 3 weeks, she didn't dream of Wesley. She dreamed of Davin standing in that doorway, choosing to protect her when he could have walked away. The next morning, she returned to work. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because 3 women had filed complaints overnight, and they needed someone who understood what they were facing. Someone who'd survived and chosen to fight back. Callista reviewed their cases with Nick's built action plans, coordinated with legal and security. By noon, all 3 women had restraining orders, paid leave, and counseling services arranged. You're good at this, Nix observed. Natural. I know what it's like to be powerless. I won't let it happen to anyone else if I can help it. Callista looked up from her work. Is Dave in here? In his office. Why? Because I want to thank him properly. And because... Callista hesitated. Because I want to understand him. Why he does this. Why he cares. She found Davin reviewing acquisition documents. Apparently, the Kong organization was buying 2 more hotel properties. Expanding the empire? Callista asked from the doorway. Davin looked up, and something in his expression softened when he saw her. Expanding the mission. These properties have reputations for mistreating staff. I'm changing that. By buying them? By rebuilding them. Same model we're using here. Fair wages, real protection, staff advocacy. He gestured to a chair. How are you holding up? Better. I helped 3 women today. It felt purposeful. Callista sat. I wanted to ask you something. About your sister. What was her name? Pain flickered across Davin's face. But he answered. Hannah. She was 23 when she died. Brilliant. Kind. Everything good in our family. His voice roughened. She wanted to be a teacher. Instead, she cleaned houses for people who treated her like she was invisible. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be the person who makes sure other Hannahs survive. Davin's eyes held hers. That's what you're doing, Callista. Every woman you help, every complaint you take seriously, you're changing the story. You're proving that someone will listen, someone will act, someone will believe them. Because of you. You built this. Because of Hannah. She built this, even if she never lived to see it. Davin stood, moving to the window. I told myself for years I was honoring her memory by accumulating power. But power for its own sake is empty. It wasn't until I heard you in that supply closet, heard Wesley telling you no one would believe you, that I understood what Hannah actually needed from me. What's that? Not revenge. Protection. Not for her, it was too late for her, but for everyone who comes after. He turned back to Callista. You were the first person I protected who survived. Who got to build a life instead of a funeral. And watching you thrive, watching you take that trauma and turn it into purpose. That's the legacy Hannah deserved. Tears pricked Callista's eyes. I wish I could have met her. She would have loved you, would have been proud of what you're becoming. Davin's smile was sad but genuine. And she would have absolutely approved of me shooting Wesley Harrington. Callista laughed despite herself. Probably. Definitely. Davin's expression grew serious. Callista, I need to tell you something. Wesley's pleading guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 15 years minimum. But he'll be eligible for parole in 10. The news hit like a fist. 10 years. 10 years where he can't hurt you, can't hurt anyone. And by then, you'll be even stronger. Even more protected. Davin moved closer. I'm not going anywhere. This organization, this protection, it's not temporary. You're part of this family now. And we protect family. Why me? The question she'd been holding finally escaped. I'm nobody special. You're wrong. Davin's voice was firm. You're a survivor who refused to stay silent. You're brave enough to trust when trust is terrifying. You're strong enough to turn your pain into purpose. He paused. And you're the reason I remember why I built all this power in the first place. Before Callista could respond, Nix knocked and entered. "Boss, the new property acquisitions are finalized. And we have 5 more women requesting to speak with Callista about workplace harassment complaints." 5. Callista breathed. Words spreading. "You're building something, Callista. A reputation. Women know you'll listen, you'll act, you'll believe them." Nix's expression was approving. "The staff advocacy program is working." Over the next 6 months, Callista's program expanded across all Kong properties. She hired a team, developed protocols, created a confidential hotline. Harassment complaints were investigated within 48 hours. Victims received paid leave, counseling, and legal support. Perpetrators were fired and, when appropriate, prosecuted. The hospitality industry noticed. Other hotel chains began implementing similar programs, citing Kong Hospitality as the model. And through it all, Davin remained her constant supporter, providing resources, backing her decisions, ensuring she had everything needed to succeed. 2 years after the night in the supply closet, Callista stood on a stage at the National Hospitality Workers Conference, accepting an award for her advocacy work. The ballroom was filled with industry leaders, workers' rights activists, and survivors who'd found their voices through her program. In the front row sat Davin, his expression proud but understated. Beside him, Nix and the rest of his team, the family that had become hers. "When I was trapped in that supply closet," Callista told the audience, "I believed what my attacker told me, that no one would believe me, that I was nobody, that my voice didn't matter." She paused, her eyes finding Davin's. "Then someone opened that door. Someone with power chose to use it to protect me instead of hurt me. And everything changed." She shared her story, not for pity, but for purpose. Talked about the staff advocacy program that had helped over 300 workers across 12 properties. About the policy changes that had rippled through the hospitality industry. About the survivors who'd become advocates themselves. "Change doesn't happen because powerful people suddenly grow consciences," Callista concluded. "It happens because someone with power decides that protecting the vulnerable matters more than protecting the status quo. It happens because survivors refuse to stay silent. And it happens because we build systems that believe people, especially those society tells us don't matter." The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, Davin found her in the quiet hallway behind the ballroom. "You were extraordinary up there. I learned from the best." Callista smiled. "How to use power for protection instead of control. You're giving me too much credit. You did this yourself. We did it together." She touched his arm. "I've been thinking about something. The program is successful here, but there are thousands of hotels, restaurants, hospitals, places where workers are still vulnerable. I want to expand beyond Kong properties." "You want to leave?" Davin's expression was carefully neutral. "I want to build something bigger, a non-profit that any company can implement. Training, protocols, support systems, everything we've created here, available to everyone." Callista met his eyes. "But I need a founding sponsor, someone willing to invest not just money but reputation. You're asking me to publicly back a workers' rights organization. That's going to raise questions about my other businesses." "I know, and I know it's a risk." Davin was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Genuine, warm. The expression he reserved for moments that truly mattered. "Hannah would love this. A workers' protection nonprofit funded by Korean Mafia money. The irony is perfect. So that's a yes?" "That's an absolutely yes. With one condition." "What?" "You let me name it. In honor of someone who deserved better." His voice roughened. "The Hannah Project. For workers who deserve to be heard, believed, and protected." Callista felt tears sting her eyes. "She'd be proud of you, of what you've built in her name. She'd be proud of you. You're living the life she never got to have. Speaking up, fighting back, changing systems." Davin's hand found hers. "Thank you for that. For being proof that sometimes, opening the right door at the right time can change everything." 3 years later, the Hannah Project operated in 47 cities across 3 countries. Callista had hired a team of survivors turned advocates, developed training programs used by Fortune 500 companies, and helped over 2,000 workers escape hostile environments. Wesley Harrington remained in prison, his parole repeatedly denied due to lack of remorse. And Callista, once an invisible housekeeper with expired papers, now sat on boards, advised legislators, and spoke at international conferences about workers' rights. But her favorite moments were still the quiet ones. Reviewing complaints in her office, listening to frightened voices on the hotline, telling survivors the words she'd once desperately needed to hear. I believe you. You're not alone. And no one gets to hurt you anymore. She kept a photo on her desk, Davin and Hannah as children, smiling in a soul playground. A reminder of why the work mattered. Of the girl who didn't survive but whose memory had saved hundreds. Some nights, Callista still dreamed of that supply closet. But now the dream ended differently. Not with Wesley's threats, but with a door opening. With someone choosing to protect instead of harm. With a voice saying words that changed everything. I own this building, this staff, and apparently this problem. Now step away from that door. And she'd wake knowing. One person with power and conscience could change the world. One door opened at the right moment could save lives. One choice to believe, to act, to protect, that was all it took. She'd been nobody, the system had failed her, and a criminal had saved her. And together, they'd built something that ensured no one else would have to choose between silence and survival. This story explored themes of power, protection, and turning trauma into purpose. When have you witnessed someone use their privilege to protect rather than exploit? Share your story, and if this resonated, subscribe for more tales about unexpected allies and the courage to rebuild.